It is just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Keith English with LocalMed.com. Keith English is the CEO and founder of LocalMed. Founded in 2013, LocalMed's mission is to provide accurate, real-time scheduling for dental patients. LocalMed currently supports over 1,700 offices in the U.S., scheduling tens of thousands of patients a month. When not trying to help dental offices grow their practice and provide a better patient experience, Keith enjoys fishing, golfing, and reading. His wife of 10 years, Josie, and their two children, Bryce and Grace, split their time between Baton Rouge and Florida. And we have a very common good friend, Sandy Pardue. And you told me that Sandy Pardue was the first person that heard your idea and didn't think you were crazy. And the office from her partner uses it. I just think this is, I called you to be on this show. You didn't call me. This is an advertisement, but I just think this is amazing. So tell my homies what they're doing. Patients are actually scheduling their own appointment in a dental office online?
So absolutely. So it's the same sort of service and from an office that you would expect to get from any other way that you deal with life in general, whether it be scheduling your appointment for pretty much any other service or getting a hotel or a flight or any of that other stuff that you've come to expect. It's the same concept applies. You basically go on and look at the open inventory at the office itself, make the selection that best fits your life, and fill out your information, and that information is then transmitted directly back into the management system at the office.
Wow. I mean, because so many people think, it'd be like giving up. That's her full-time job is scheduling appointments, and you're saying that now consumers are looking at your inventory of openings to come in and get their teeth cleaned. Is it just teeth cleanings, or is it new patient exams, or what kind of appointments are they scheduling?
So the vast majority fall into teeth cleanings, new patient exams, and emergency. The reason that a lot of them fall into that category, though, is that's also the most common things that people open up online to have for scheduling. We don't dictate to offices what they have to have for online scheduling. We let them tell us what they want to have availability online. So it's not our job to tell offices how to do business. We work very hard to fit within their existing business flow.
By the way, if you're listening to this on iTunes, you got to subscribe to our YouTube channel and watch his YouTube, because he looks just like Leonardo DiCaprio. Now, you've obviously been told that.
I get that one, particularly when I was younger and didn't have gray hair. I got that a little more often.
Well, how old are you?
I'm 43.
Well, how old's Leonardo?
I have no idea.
Ryan, find out, because God, I'm just looking at you like I'm seeing movie scenes right before Catch Me If You Can. Yeah, Leonardo's 42, so you're only 1 year older than Leonardo. But I was thinking you look, just like the later scenes of the movie. What was it, Aviator?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, when he was going crazy. I don't know that I want to hear that.
Oh, my gosh. You look like you got to check this guy out. He does. He looks just like him. And, so what 17 dental offices or 1,700 dental offices are using this. What are most of them using it for?
So most of them use it to help do two things. One is to attract new patients that otherwise might not schedule at their office. The other is for inter-office efficiencies. So about 42% of the appointments that are scheduled on our platform are done so outside of office hours. So these are folks that literally had no other way of scheduling with the office. Everybody knows the problem of people not liking to leave voicemails. Things come up over the course of weekends. Life just gets in the way, and they don't have the ability to schedule during normal office hours. And we help alleviate that problem so that we open up scheduling to be a 24-hour possibility at any office that we work with. And the other thing is it allows the inter-office staff to focus on those patients that are actually in the office right then and there to maximize that experience. If you have fewer phone calls on a daily basis because those people are scheduling online, that means that your front office staff can focus more on those folks that are standing in front of them and provide better service as opposed to being on the phone.
Wow, and you got top states on LocalMed. It's just all over. There's so many states on here.
We don't have Maine and Vermont, so we got to get those two. Those are the last ones.
All right. If any of my homies are from Maine and Vermont, you got to get them got to get this going. Now, how much is it?
Depends on the size of the office and the organization. So the maximum it's going to be is $249 a month, and it is a month-to-month contract. But if you are a single provider office or part of a larger group, obviously those prices are going to go down.
42% of these are scheduling outside of the office hours. I found it very weird because, you always have personal biases against what you believe. Like young kids hate direct mail, so they believe that Facebook ads work better than direct mail, which isn't always the case. I remember when they came out with ATM machines, my dad used to think, well, who the hell would use an ATM machine when you can walk inside and talk to the teller? But it sounds like now Americans, do you think more people prefer to do like their banking and scheduling online than with a human? Or do
Oh,
you have any?
absolutely. Absolutely. Not just from a timing perspective, but we ask at the end of every appointment that's scheduled with us to help us improve our service. We ask why people utilized our service as opposed to calling the office. So I want to know, why did you choose to use us as opposed to the traditional method like you just mentioned? And they basically fall into several buckets. One is that the office was simply closed and they had no other alternative. The other bucket things fall into is they tried to call the office and nobody answered. I
So
mean,
what
it is
was
a
number
very,
one? What was number one?
they had no other alternative. The office itself was closed.
Okay, after hours.
After hours, weekends, things of that nature. Second bucket being they tried to call and nobody answered. So, and that's a known problem, not just in dental, but in healthcare in general, is that busy times of the day, somebody doesn't show up for work for whatever reason, that you can have those calls not answered by a live person. The other big things that fell into it were people simply just didn't want to call the office and waste that 10 minutes of their life on hold or being shuffled from one person to the other, or to get into the circumstance that I like to refer to as the old movie circumstance. As I said, I'm 43 years old. When I grew up, I used to have to call the movie theater and listen to the answering machine to see what movie I wanted to go see. They'd list off the times. The movie you always wanted to see, they'd put last. You'd have to listen to all of it, and you had to wait. It's the same thing that a lot of dental offices do right now, is it turns into a negotiation for a time. Patient calls up, says, do you have anything Tuesday in the afternoon? No, but I've got Wednesday in the morning. Well, that doesn't work for me. How about Thursday in the afternoon? Oh, there's nothing Thursday afternoon. So it turns into a situation where the patient can't see all of the inventory that's available to know what fits best with their schedule. And a lot of patients really like that concept of being able to see what's available and then match that with their calendar. And the fourth bucket things fall into are people simply can't call at work. They don't have the ability to call while they're at their work environment, which are the types of people that you want to have as patients. They have jobs. They have the ability to pay for stuff. They just simply can't call between 8:30 and 4:30.
Man, that's amazing. And have you ever seen any data? By the way, most of our listeners are probably 85% are commuting to work. Their commute's an hour. That's why we do the show for an hour. But I always retweet my guest last Twitter. So when they follow me at Howard Farran, I just retweeted you. You're at LocalMed. I just retweeted your last tweet from over 40% of appointments scheduled on our platform are while the office is closed. How many opportunities are you missing? And have you ever seen any data on how many people have to call your office and get prompted for voicemail before someone leaves a voicemail?
I have not personally. Because we deal strictly in the online environment, we don't get a lot of that data, which would have to come from our offices. I have been given anecdotal information, but nothing that I can say, hey, I know this to be a fact.
Well, what kind of anecdotal information have you heard?
So we have heard that somewhere between 17 and 31% of phone calls go unanswered, depending on the practice.
Yeah.
And again, those are not my numbers. These are numbers I've been given by a variety of consultants and other folks that have been in this industry a lot longer than I have. And then as far as the number of hangups or people that leave, it's in the single digits of a percentage of people that get the voicemail that end up leaving the voicemail.
Yeah. And I know, my job is to guesstimate what questions my homies are asking, but they're probably thinking, what dental practice management software does this work with best? What if she's a young kid and she's gonna start her own office? She just graduated last week from dental school. What practice management software works the best with this, or does it not even matter?
Sure, it does matter. Our connections are read-write connections. So we integrate with Open Dental, EagleSoft, Dentrix, SoftDent, Practice Web, Dentrix Enterprise. Those are the basic ones that we
integrate. Same again, Open Dental, EagleSoft, Dentrix.
Dentrix Core, Dentrix Enterprise, Practice Web. Those are the main ones right now.
So, and what of your clients, like what percent have Dentrix versus EagleSoft versus Open Dental?
So, as I'm sure you've seen across all of your folks as well, not just related to us, but Open Dental seems to be gaining an awful lot of traction. We started building this about almost 5 years ago now. Open Dental was not nearly the percentage of the market that it is currently. We see an awful lot of our folks changing practice management systems that are existing clients, switching from one of the other systems to Open Dental. We see that very frequently.
Yeah, I'm doing it in my office this month. I've been on SoftDent since 1987. My gosh, 30 years I've been on that system, and we're switching. Why do you think people on Dentrix and EagleSoft are switching to Open Dental?
Again, anecdotally, kind of what we're told is that they tend to play nicer with other services, which means that the offices can then get best in class at whatever outside service they're looking to work with. Whereas those other systems are trying to very tightly control things. So it really limits the outside services that they can work with, completely outside of what we do. But if somebody wants to work with a particular credit card processor or accounting software or whatever else, it seems that Open Dental tends to work with that a little better, as well as it seems like the pricing mechanism that's set up for that is more conducive to what dental offices are looking for right now.
And the guy who started that was a dentist, Jordan Sparks, and that's exactly why he started. He got so mad that he couldn't export his patients' name addresses for a direct mail piece. And when he found out that not only he couldn't do it, but they'd actually gone in there and did extra programming to make sure he couldn't, he was so pissed he started his own software company. But I guess he's moved on, and now his brother Nathan runs the show. That's so. What I'm not smart. This is all new to me. I want you to review where are humans doing this again? Doing this in other place. I mean, if someone sits there and say this isn't coming to dentistry, you said airline tickets. Give more examples of where American consumers are scheduling appointments online.
Sure. So take something as basic as like a hair care appointment that takes very little.
Oh, you had to say hair care, knowing I'm bald.
Yeah,
and you're sitting there looking like Leonardo DiCaprio. Go ahead, passive aggressive.
I didn't bring it up, just so you know. But take salons, any of that sort of stuff like that are very basic appointment types. Over 60% of those are now booked online.
Seriously?
Whereas 6 years ago, zero. But there are some very large companies like MindBody and Booker and those that don't have to be connected to any back-end system. They're actually the scheduling system and the online component, because it's not like dentistry or healthcare where you have to have the full patient information in the background. You don't have to have that for hair care, right? There's just the history is not as important as it is when you go into somebody for a dental office. So you have to, because they're not connecting to anything, they can spread out a lot quicker. But you mentioned, hotels, airlines, things of that nature. Over 80% of those are booked online.
80% of hotels?
80% of hotels and airline tickets are booked online.
And what was that 6 years ago?
I know 10 years ago, it was in the single digits.
Wow.
And it's been estimated by several organizations, Pew, Intuit, and Kaiser Healthcare, all say that in 20, that it'll be over 50% for healthcare too.
In 20 years, it'll be 50%?
2020.
Oh,
3 years.
2020. So
Yes.
in 3 years, they say healthcare will be 0 to 50 by 2020.
They're saying it's about 6% right now. So when you've got somebody like a Kaiser Permanente, who's a closed system, they've invested a ton of money in building their own system. So they're already way ahead of the curve as far as that's concerned. But related to some of these others, they count online forms as online scheduling, even though it's really not. But they're including those numbers in there as well.
Okay, so tell my homie how this works. You said it's $249 a month. What do they do? They go to localmed.com.
Yep, they can go there. So I want to say one thing about the service that's very important to me to get out there on this is there's a thought process that some of the others use to drive people to their existing domains, right? So they're trying to collect all the traffic for themselves. And you'll think of some of the other companies that have tried to aggregate scheduling or lead generation through their platforms, like a 1-800-dentist or something like that. And they did a very good job of bringing people to their properties and then distributing those out to their members. Our philosophy is very different in that we work in the places where patients are already looking. So as an example, we work on your website. So 30% of people that are new patients that come to your website will simply never call your office. They just won't do it. They will not pick up the phone, but they will schedule online and show up. 18% of your existing patients that walk out the door will not call your office to reschedule, but they will schedule online. So those are ways to recapture it off of your existing marketing dollars and off of your website that you already have. As well, we have partnerships with insurance companies to allow people to schedule directly from those insurance company directories and appliance companies like 6 Month Smiles. So if you're a member, if you're in network with the insurance companies or a member dentist of, say, 6 Month Smiles, when people are searching on those directories to see who in their markets provide that service, they'll be able to schedule directly from those directories, which helps bring new patients into your office.
And of your 1,700 dentists using this right now in 48 states, because Maine and Vermont can't get their shit together and get their first user, how many patients a month are scheduling? I mean, do you have any data on that?
So we have some offices that have 1 or 2. We have some offices that have several hundred. There's a variety of factors that it matters. One is the amount of open inventory you frankly have. If you don't have but 1 or 2 open appointments in a month, we can't do very much to help you schedule additional folks into that. If you have a variety of open appointments, then yes, we have the ability to do so. If you don't have people coming to your web properties, or you're not in network with our insurance partners, and that makes things a little bit more difficult. But I think the most we've ever had at a single office in 1 month is around 300.
Wow. And what questions should I be asking, but I'm not smart enough to be asking, because you're dealing with dentists all the time. What questions are they asking you about this?
So the biggest question we always get is something you started to allude to earlier, which was, I'm going to lose control of my schedule. How am I going to give up control of my schedule? And you're going to put crowns in my 15-minute lunch break and screw up everything. The reality of the situation is, by being integrated into the practice management system, we cannot book an appointment in the wrong place. So it's absolutely impossible for us to do so after you set things up. So when you tell us that a new patient appointment is 1 hour, and it goes into chairs 3, 5, and 7 on Mondays and Fridays, and chairs 2 and 4 on Thursdays, then that's where things go. So there's no losing control of schedule, because you're the one that tells us where the inventory needs to be displayed if available. So that is the biggest thing that is a misconception out there, is that we are telling you where things should be scheduled, as opposed to reading your schedule to only show the accurate openings.
And how does the staff like this?
The staff, it depends. If we have a staff that recognizes that they have more responsibilities, that's just a part of their function is to answer that phone and do that, then they're receptive and they realize that this is going to help free them up to do the other things that are a big part of their job. We're not replacing anybody. So that's something you mentioned earlier was that, this is people's whole jobs. And I'll use an analogy. Again, I'm dating myself a little bit on this, but when I was really young is when the microwave became really popular. And I remember my mom got a microwave and everybody said that you're going to be able to throw your oven in the harbor and you can just do everything in the microwave. The reality of the situation is it turns out that the microwave has its set of uses and the oven and the stove have their set of uses. And pretty much every single kitchen has both. And that's effectively what we have here is you have the traditional way of scheduling has its place. There are always going to be those questions that have to be answered. People are going to be walking out of the office and want to schedule. And online scheduling has its place for those people who fall into those buckets that I mentioned before. They don't want to call. They can't call. It's after hours. They're at work. So it really will take both pieces of that to effectively run an office.
And another thing I want to say about scheduling is that dentists they the number one cost is a 42% reduction in their PPO fee. Then it's 28% labor, it's 10% lab, it's 6% supplies. And where is the constraint? A chair. I mean, an operatory. They don't have enough ops. And then they're saying, well, what happens if someone does this online and I get double booked or whatever the hell? Then the next question they say is, well, how do you get rid of cancellations and no-shows? I mean, the airlines always overbook. So to me, I look at the worst case scenario, you double book, and one of them's not going to show anyway. I mean, no-shows and cancellations are huge, and the airlines legally have the right to overbook 10%. If you don't like it, they'll just beat you and drag you off the plane. I mean, so I think everybody should have this online scheduling deal. When we're converting to Open Dental next month, and I hope you. I want to get it done in mine.
Good, happy to have it.
And Sandy Purdue is a legend on Dentaltown. I don't think anyone's ever disagreed with her one time. I mean, she's been doing this for a long time, 3 decades, and she's just amazing. And she just told me you were the real deal and a bag of chips. And so I was curious, what other things, since I haven't started doing this in my office yet, but I totally intend to, Sandy Purdue's recommendation and now meeting you, what other things should we talk about that the 1,700 dentists? What are their what's your FAQs with dentists? You're so new on this. You're gonna have to ask. You're gonna have to interview yourself on my show.
Well, so we once we get past kind of the understanding and show them that the control issue is not really an issue, that they're telling us how they want their schedule to look. The reality is they start looking for opportunities to use it. We get a lot of questions about, can I use this in my recall messages as an example? So things are sent out to people saying, hey, you haven't scheduled in the last 6 months. And can I put a link to my schedule in that? Absolutely. Can they send it out on their postcards to drive people directly to that? Absolutely. So the dentists that see it and get past that initial part of it, then they really start to look for opportunities because they realize it can only help them. I mean, the whole goal of this is the same goal that they have with every other thing that they do, which is to get butts in seats, right? Butts in seats equals more top line equals more bottom line. And that's what we're working with them to do as well, is the more opportunities you give people to schedule, the more they will schedule. It's amazing how those two things fit together.
Yeah, and the other thing is, there's 168 hours in a week, and the average dental office is open 32 hours a week, which is only 19% of the week. So 81% of all the hours in a week, there's no one answering your phone.
Absolutely.
And you were saying all you're getting. What did you say it was? 42% outside of office hours, and then they'll have 2 receptionists. Or front desk, or whatever you want to call them. I don't like to call them front desk. I don't think anybody should have a job named after a piece of furniture. But they'll both go to lunch from at 12. So it's like, well, why can't one go to lunch 12 to 1 and one go to lunch 1 to 2? But why? Because they're buddies and they love each other and they want to go to Taco Bell together. And
You're
then
thinking the issues I don't want to step on there.
and then even if they come in early, to get ready for the day, they still don't turn the phones over till exactly 8 o'clock. So they might get there at 7:15 and getting ready for the day and all this stuff, but they're so busy talking to each other and having fun and all that kind of stuff. They don't even turn the phones on. So the phones are rolled over to voicemail, and you're thinking, what are you thinking off? 10 to 1, 10 calls would have to come in for one voicemail. You thinking 20 to 1, 30 to 1? What are you thinking it'd be? In just your gut.
Again, I would say between at least 15 to 20 before
To
somebody's going to 1. Yeah, I mean, because it's kind of a fool's errand to leave a message, because history has shown everybody that you just don't get a call back in a reasonable period of time. Because
That's
if they're not going to,
fool's errand? Is that what you
yeah,
said?
yeah,
I've never heard that before. A fool's errand?
yeah. Sorry,
Where'd you get that line?
I'm from the South. We say some things that other people just haven't heard of every now and then.
I think it's cool. I thought, wow, that is really cool. I've never heard that before. A fool's errand, because why leave a detailed voicemail when they're not going to call you back in a timely manner? You're just wasting your time.
And if they do call you back, the reason you called at 7:15 is because you can't call at 9:30. You're taking your kids to school and you're on your way to work, or whatever else has gotten in the way. That's the rest of life that has nothing to do with dental. That's a lot more important than you calling the dental office. The reason you're calling them is because that's when you have the time to do it. And if they're not going to answer, then the time that they are there is not going to be convenient for you.
By the way, did you know we live on the same street?
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I-10. I'm right on the I-10, and you're on Baton Rouge. I can drive from my house to your house without making one turn.
Yep, and then you can get
that's
to...
the busiest interstate in America and the busiest train, because 10 goes from L.A., where's it, to Jacksonville, Florida,
Jacksonville,
right?
yeah. Straight. Yeah. There's a sign in Jacksonville that literally says, 2,400 miles to L.A.
Or is that right?
Yeah.
Wow, I'd love to get a picture of that, because there's another thing about I-10 with trucks, and it's the busiest train route too, because if you dump off you only have two options if you're a ship. If you're coming from China and you need to get to the East Coast, you either got to sail all the way down and go through the Panama Canal and come back up, which is time and fuel, or you come into LA and put all those containers on trains. And when I'm climbing these mountains out here in Arizona, those trains, not only do they go by all the time, but they're so long, it's just almost incomprehensible how long they are. And they're stacked two on top of each other, two at a time, just chasing I-10. So how long does it take you to drive to New Orleans from Baton Rouge?
About 45 minutes. In fact, that's where I fly out of most of the time. So they have direct flights out of New Orleans to most places, whereas Baton Rouge has a direct flight to Atlanta.
So do you have your own condo on Bourbon Street, or do you just pass out on the sidewalk like everyone else?
No, I try and not get down that way too much. I just had my second child 3 weeks ago, so I've been a little bit worried about that.
Oh, nice, man! Congratulations. So you got two now, huh?
That's it. Yep, an 8.5-year-old boy and a 3-week-old daughter.
That is just amazing. So you'd recommend to these young kids, you've had 6,000 kids graduate from dental school. So you're basically saying if you're going to start your own office, you'd go with Open Dental, and you'd go with this online, LocalMed.com.
Yeah, I did. Don't pin me into the Open Dental thing. You asked me what we see, so I'm not...
Well, if you go to Dentaltown, I love it when you go to Dentaltown and search, because the research on dentists shows that 91% of dentists, when they're deciding whether or not to use a product or service in dentistry, their first response is, I want to hear from another dentist. Only 9% say, I want to hear from the company. So I put that little search pad, there's 5 million posts on Dentaltown. So I put that little search button. And if you do a search for any practice management software system, it's just moaning, bitching, complaining, and you do it one for Open Dental, and it's just all raving fans. I mean, it's right there. I mean, I can't make up 5 million posts. I only have one account, and so I mean, of those 5 million posts, I haven't even posted 30,000 times. I mean, it's Dentaltown, not HowardFarran.com. And then would you also put it on your voicemail that, by the way, you can go to what it would just go to our company website, like I'm todaysdental.com. If you'd like to schedule your own appointment, go to todaysdental.com and book your own appointment online.
Absolutely. So somebody does reach out, because one interesting thing we have seen is patients right now are not used to scheduling online, right? They just don't even know that it's a possibility. So when they run into it on your website, they've come there for something else. The number I mentioned a bit ago, 42% of our patients scheduled through our system. When we went live almost 3 years ago now, that number was about half that, because people just didn't know that it was even an option. So they never went to dental websites outside of business hours because they didn't think there was anything they could do about it anyway. But as they are coming to expect that to be more available for them, that number is starting to rise. So a lot of people are putting it on their voicemails. Hey, we're sorry you reached our voicemail. If this is during business hours, we're very busy. Please go to todaysdental.com to schedule an appointment, or after hours. Our office hours are 9 to 5 Pacific time. If you're calling outside of those hours, please feel free to visit online to schedule yourself and see our open inventory. So those are definitely ways that people utilize the system.
And when did you launch this? What year?
We went live outside of our beta at the end of 2014.
So how did you end up in dentistry? How come you didn't go into mani-pedi salons or stuff like that? Well, how did you end up in dentistry?
We didn't do any of the other ones, frankly, because other people were doing them, right? There was already people exploring how to do that. And so a little bit about my background. I owned a previous business that did lead generation for financial firms. So we did lead generation for auto companies, for short and long-term loan mortgages, credit cards, and built that company up, and I sold it at the end of 2007 to a private equity firm, and spent about 4 years fishing, goofing off, then decided I want to get back into being an operator. So met some folks that through some mutual friends that had a concept. We kind of massaged that concept a little bit, and we originally had a very broad medical focus for scheduling. But as we got into it, we realized that dentists schedule very different than dermatologists, who schedule different than chiropractors and so forth. So we realized we need to kind of specialize to start with. So we did a bunch of research and came to dentistry as one that we could connect to the existing management systems in the offices and have enough market coverage that was ability for us to go to live. So it took us almost 2.5 years to build this system with 0 customers, just development, sitting in the dark, trying to figure out exactly how to make these things function the way that we needed to. And then we went and sat, and we were very fortunate to have a gentleman by the name of Dr. Robert De La Rosa, who was the president of the American Dental, the Pediatric Dental Association. And we bugged his staff to death. We sat in there every day. Why do you do this? How does this work? Why'd you answer the phone call that way? What questions were they asking? We sat there and just bugged them to pieces until we understood the process a little bit better. And then we spent 2.5 years building out the code before we ever launched out to do anything. So it was basically born out of the fact that we knew this was something that didn't exist in the marketplace. We focused on dental because it had the largest number of appointments with the smallest number of practice management systems that we needed to connect to.
Damn, you're a smart man. And if you do a search on Dentaltown for LocalMed, you have legends saying this is what Lenny Tao says. I know LocalMed. I've spoken to them. Looking forward to hear more. It's going to be huge for dentistry. I mean, everybody's just ranting and raving. But nice. So, by the way, for my international viewers, are you in any other countries, or is this a U.S. play only?
So we will be in the English-speaking countries within the next 12 months. So Australia, New Zealand, Canada, UK are all on our roadmap for the next 12 months. The biggest roadblocks, or not roadblocks, but the things we have to really work through there Each of those countries has its own data storage and transmission laws, so related to PHI. So figuring those out, figuring out the data storage, we're working directly with Amazon Web Services, AWS, to make sure that we're adhering to all of the local laws and that we're handling data properly.
I always assumed that laws were just suggestions, but you're taking them more serious, huh?
We are very sensitive to HIPAA in the U.S. and then whatever the local data protection laws are. That's something that, while we certainly are innovators and very creative in the way we do things, there is a place where you have to play 100% by the rules, and that is related to data security.
When will you be ready in Australia?
So Australia, really, we have all the rules. It's just a matter of launching. There's nothing data-wise down there. It's just a matter of putting some sales efforts in that market. That would be one of the easiest for us to get into.
Well, I'm lecturing in Sydney, Australia, July 29th, and then the week after that in Melbourne. So Ryan, will you make sure I get a slide in my seminar for that? I'll put a slide in there. I love Australia and New Zealand. Yeah, I would think Canada. I would think that the fastest growing English markets are Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom is interesting because 30 years ago, they all were pretty much employees for the NHS system fee schedule. And the fees got so low that they literally had to start going private practice. And so now, the practice management has exploded in the UK. And I wonder if the PPO fees in America keep sliding down and down and down and down and down. I mean, a lot of the Medicaid fees are about a third of the fee schedule. There comes to a point where the dentist can't afford to lose money on all these procedures, so they have to be more competitive. And you know what? I'm proud of dentists because dentists and vets and chiropractors are 10 times more practice management savvy than in healthcare. I mean, it's like in healthcare, it's like they're not even trying. I mean, we always criticize dentists how they should be better and better and better. And then every time you go to your physician and you go to these hospitals, I mean, it's like, my God, they're 20 years behind dentistry.
Dentists are put in a unique position in that the traditional path has always been to hang out your own shingle, go your own route. And it's just so many things they have to figure out by themselves. And not having been through dental school myself, but I have a lot of dentist friends, and their level of kind of what they're thrown out to the wolves with, to me, is pretty interesting. They're given all the technical capabilities, but dealing with the things that are required to run a dental business are completely separate from the ability to work on somebody's mouth. And it's pretty interesting to me how many different things have to be covered in order to become a successful dental practice. And I think one of the things that we're very hard at on our side is to fit within the personalities of that particular office without trying to impose our own will is very important to us, because those are small businesses. They're private businesses. They take on the shape and the form of the individual, and it's our job to kind of fit into that as opposed to try and demand they work in one way or another.
And what percent of the dentists you've dealt with 1,700 of them? What percent of the dentists would you say are just batshit crazy?
We have had some interesting circumstances where there was absolutely no chance of us ever satisfying all of the things that they wanted. But by and large, most of them are doing the same things that everybody else is. They're trying to utilize their skills in the best way they know how in order to grow their business. But there are some ones out there that make that pretty tough.
Yeah, but I bet you're dealing with the cream of the crop. I mean, there's 150,000 general dentists. There's 30,000 specialists. If you want to get legal, there's actually 211,000 Americans who are legally board licensed to practice dentistry. But it's about 150,000 are doing, your full-time 32 hours a week or more, another 30,000 specialists, and you got 17. So that's 180,000. So you got 1,700 out of
Yeah, 1%.
180,000. You're dealing right now. You're dealing with the top 1%
Yeah.
of business sophistication, which was my next question. Is this a general dentist play, or are you seeing orthodontists, endodontists, periodontists, pediatric dentists? How's specialty versus family practice?
So the vast majority are general, but we have a great number of pediatrics. I mean, if you think about the service this provides for a mother trying to schedule for her children, because her children are screaming bloody murder at her through the course of the day, and this, when she finally gets a peace and quiet, can schedule, or she can look online to make sure that she can schedule for both or all three of her kids at the same time.
So what new product you're rolling out? You're doing something in the review space. What companies did you say were standalone dental review companies currently?
So they're not necessarily standalone dental reviews, but they're ones that are large in the dental space, like Podium and Bird Eye. They're the ones that have, and I think they're the ones that have the most traction, or at least let me rephrase that. They have the most visibility. The reason that people generate reviews, and the reason people read reviews, is because it gives social proof that other people like that practice, that they had a good experience at that practice. The whole reason for social proof is to give the next set of people the confidence to schedule at that practice. So we believe that linking those reviews into the scheduling process is the next logical step. If you have standalone reviews but can't do anything other than still call the office, people are looking online to get those reviews, and then you're forcing them to call the office. Why would you not let them schedule directly from that same application? So we believe combining those two pieces will help offices to be able to fully realize the value of all of the reviews that they're creating.
So you're saying that you're going to put peanut butter on the chocolate?
We are doing both, yes, sir.
And Ryan, how long did we find out yesterday? When did movies come out, and when did they finally add sound? I thought that was... What was it? I thought it was so bizarre that the human mind was watching soundless movies and listening to music on a phonograph for 2 decades before one monkey said, "Hey, I'm going to put peanut butter on." That. Do you remember that commercial when where the guy tripped and fell and with his chocolate bar into a jar?
The two pieces.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many years was it? 37 years before a talking monkey thought they would add the record to the movie. I mean, that shows you how things that are so obvious today are just not always obvious. And that's so neat that you're going to combine online scheduling, which I couldn't believe when Sandy Pardue was telling me about it, to the reviews. And, I have a real bias against that because I've never read a review. I've never seen anybody use Yelp. Who are all these people that would give a shit what some stranger on the internet said about a business when all you have to do is go to your own Thanksgiving dinner and see that half your uncles and aunts are completely insane? I would figure that the people leaving these reviews are nut jobs anyway. The only review that would make sense to me, I'd want it to be video. I want to see the person's eyes talking, because you can see if they got crazy eyes, like when your batshit crazy aunt is rattling off about conspiracies and all that stuff. You can just tell by looking at her that she's drunk and crazy. But I'd want to see a review. I mean, is it coming from someone who's dressed, like they know what they're talking about, or is it a crazy person? So I don't know. But you think reviews are a big deal for a big portion of the population?
They are. I mean, that's not my thought. It's what has been proven by a variety of different marketing companies.
And what percent of America's 325 million people do you think are reading reviews and acting on them?
Now they say somewhere close to 68% of people read reviews before not just booking a dental appointment, but before making an online purchase, before making a decision about a product. They will up to 68% of people will read reviews on that product or service.
So that's 2/3 of the market. Now, do you see any age deal? Am I saying that because I'm a grandpa? I mean, you got 2 new babies. I got 2 grandbabies. Is that an age deal? Is it because I'm an old man, or old people with liver spots looking at reviews?
I think it's all over the place. I mean, my mother looks at reviews. My father turned 70 this year. He looks at reviews. You know, it's not that they seek it out, but if it's something that's there that gives them the opportunity to know that what they're buying is not going to fall apart, or the guy that they're going to see or girl that they're going to go see for their teeth is not some uh, person that's going to be rude to them or whatever else, that gives them a level of comfort to make that decision. And to me, combining that with immediately the ability to schedule in front of their face right then and there without having to switch mediums or platforms seems to give them the best opportunity to capture that patient at the point at which they're trying to make that decision.
I would get serious about the orthodontic practices. I've been in this game 30 years, and right now there's no competition amongst oral surgeons, endodontists, pediatric dentists, but the orthodontists have just had to wake up to competition in the last 5 to 10 years, and it's really, really getting competitive, especially in the urban markets. I mean, the only orthodontists who don't have to do anything you're talking about are in the rural. But man, if you're downtown LA, San Fran, Phoenix, whatever, it's a competitive market. And now you're seeing the orthodontists, you're either killing it on all the high tech, soft stuff, great staff, and you're doing double across the guy across the street who doesn't master all the soft side. So I think you'll do very well in ortho. I mean, we mail Orthotown magazine to 10,000 orthodontists every month. If you cut Alaska in half, each half would be bigger than Texas. And if you cut the number of orthodontists in half, each half would be bigger than the two next biggest specialties of oral surgeons and periodontists. I mean, there's a ton of them, and it's getting competitive. So
Yep.
I think you'll do real well there.
That's certainly on our map because, you know, orthodontists have to basically eat what they kill too. You know, they have a limited period of time in which to not take advantage, but to have that patient in their practice. A general dentist may have, or excuse me, a family practice dentist may have that person for 20 years, whereas an orthodontist has got 3 years. So they have to take advantage of all of their opportunities as they present themselves.
What did you say? They have to eat what they kill?
Yes.
Is that another Southern term? What does that mean? They have to eat what they kill. What does that mean in business?
It means that if you don't bring it, you don't get to benefit from it. It means if you don't kill it, you don't get to eat.
Wow, I love that. And by the way, speaking of eating, is there even one person on earth who knows what's in gumbo, or do you just like clean out the entire refrigerator and throw everything in there?
If you make good gumbo, you don't make it the same way twice.
Oh, is that the deal?
Yeah.
I'll never forget my most favorite new food ever was I was down there lecturing, and some boys took me out I was lecturing in Baton Rouge, and no, it was in Lafayette, Louisiana, and we went out catching redfish in the bayou. It was about a 2-3 hour drive south, and it was crawfish, or is that what you call it, crawfish or crayfish?
Mud bugs, yeah, same thing.
Oh my God! When they said they were going to do that, I thought they were crazy. I said, "Well, that in Kansas, that's fishing bait. You're not going to eat the fishing bait, are you?" And they cooked that stuff up, and my God, that was so good. I love Louisiana. I mean, I really love New Orleans. I mean, I just think it's an amazing city. Anything else I should be smart enough to ask you, or did you pretty much cover it all?
We went through a lot of it. I mean, the big thing that has been super interesting to me, not coming from dental at all, is the reduced level of expectation of what dentists will expect from their software. So they anticipate that it's not going to do what they want it to from a default. Instead of assuming or asking if it will do everything they want it to do, they have just had to deal with such subpar efforts for so long that they assume that things will not do what they want. So we're really hoping that we can be part of and have others follow what we're doing to raise the level of sophistication of things that dentists can expect from their software platforms.
So you mean they've been let down by Dentrix and Eaglesoft so many times that they just expect it to be a disaster?
I'm not naming names. You're not going to make me. I can't do it.
Oh my
But
God. Well, Microsoft started. I mean, seriously, when we were growing up, whenever Microsoft rolled out like Windows and 95, what percent of the time was it riddled with bugs?
100.
I mean, and when you hear Bill Gates talking about all of his, all these ideas he's doing, he's trying to be, this elderly statesman. I think to myself, my whole relationship with you, Bill Gates, I would buy the software. That was 1/10 of the price. Then I'd have to pay 10 times that amount for IT people to come in my office and fix your shitty software.
Yeah.
I mean, when people say, "Oh, you want to see the books that Bill Gates is reading?" He's like, "No, I actually don't want to read any of the books. I want to take the books and throw them at him because I mean, the whole country had to pay 10 times for any of the money they gave him just because they would release that stuff. And it was true, wasn't it? It was riddled with bugs.
Yeah. And that was their rollout platform. And it's not an uncommon rollout platform for software companies is to put out a minimum viable product and then let users they become your quality assurance is your consumers finding the issues. They report them back to you, then you know it's fixed.
Okay, now do the same analogy to Steve Jobs. When they would roll out Macintosh, what percent of the software was riddled with bugs?
I can't answer that because I personally will never use a Mac and never have.
And why is that?
I find it not intuitive.
I know my 4 boys, they told me all through college, Dad, you're an old man, you're senile, you're crazy. You got to switch to Mac. So finally I heard this for so long. I said, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to switch to Mac and I'm going to commit. I know it's going to be rough, but for 1 month, I'm only going to use Mac. I almost jumped off the tallest building I could find in like 3 days. I mean, I found it. Yeah, I agree. I found, but what's weird is I use an iPhone though. Wouldn't you think?
No, I don't. I can't do it. My wife does. So we have a pretty interesting division in the office. So we're a product focused business, right? So we spend all this time developing stuff. That's our core of what we have. We didn't have a sales force until middle of last year. So we have a very stark division in this company, though, of those that use Mac and those that use Windows-based machines and Windows/Linux-based machines. But half of the office won't use anything but Mac, and the other half of the office won't touch a Mac with a 10-foot pole.
So the programmers like Microsoft and the sales team likes Macintosh?
Half of our developers don't use Apple either. So our creative side of things tend to use more Apple-based products, but our hardcore integration developers, they can't use Mac.
Yeah, we have the same thing. So the dental office is all ran on Microsoft, and in Dentaltown, all the accounting and business and programming is all on Macintosh. But to create a magazine, oh my God, they would only use Mac. They wouldn't even consider Microsoft.
And my wife's a photographer, so that's primarily why she does it as well. Is just the creative side of things tends to be much more developed on on Apple, whereas
Well, I'll tell you what, I just sent you an email, and I'll be your sales team. I'll tell you what, I sent you an email, and my programmer that does my today'sdental.com is Jake. My office manager, Robert, is the one working with Nathan Sparks. Did you ever get Nathan to come on? Did you ever find a time? Is he scheduled? Okay. So Nathan's going to come on to the show, but we'll do this, and then we'll track it. And if it actually works and everything, I'll write a column on it because I've been writing a monthly column since 1994 called Howard Speaks, and I know that. Bottom line is, I'm proud that I see the data online, so I see the views and reads. It's a well-read column since 19. What year was it? 1994. 1994, and what is it now? 2017. So 1994. So that was three. How many years is that? 1994 to 2017 be 3. That makes 23 years. That is amazing. 23 years I've had a monthly column. So I'll do a whole column on this because I like to find the new stuff, and I want to jump on this and say you can't have any more of an intelligent, raving business fan than Sandy Pardue, and maybe I'll even. So I sent you the email. What's that?
Yeah, come on down. We'll find you some more mud bugs.
All right, I will meet you at Bourbon Street, and we'll go over the progress.
Sounds like a plan.
The other thing that's the only warning I have on Bourbon Street is I was sitting at one bar. I don't even know what I was drinking, but it was yellow, and it tasted like somewhere between kerosene and gasoline, but it went down really nice. But my God, I drank some yellow drinks one night. I don't know how many I had, but wow, that was
Hand grenades.
they were 10 times stronger than a beer. But anyway, hey, thank you so much for returning my call and my email and coming on the show. I think it's really neat that I can't think of how many people will have heard of this first on Dentistry Uncensored, all because you were kind enough to come on the show, Keith. Thank you so much. And seriously, dude, I just thought I'd talk to Leonardo DiCaprio. If you're listening to this on iTunes, hang up, subscribe, go to youtube.com/Dentaltown Magazine. I think we got 3,500 subscribers to the podcast on YouTube. And you got to check this guy out. He's definitely the Leonardo DiCaprio of dentistry. Thanks a lot, Keith.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.